right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We got issue 18 of Acquire and Operate. For the love of the game, I'm back with my co-MC, Kevin Lewis. How we doing, K-Lou?
Doing amazing, my man. It's a beautiful Friday. Happy to be here.
No doubt. We've got a cold one in Denver. It's winter appears to be just giving us a little sneak peek, but 31 degrees out. So I got my wet winter attire on. Time to swap the shorts for the sweaters, my friend.
Oh yeah, same here. It's a cloudy day, kind of cold out. We might get a little bit of drizzle, but you know what? I kind of like that weather in New York, especially with all the tall concrete buildings. When you're high up and you can just kind of like see how it all looks, it's kind of beautiful.
Oh, I miss that skyline, man.
hmm Well,
All
I got
right.
an extra room whenever you're ready to come to New York.
I'm due for a visit. I was going to hit you up about that this winter. Let's make that happen.
Let's do it.
All right. So issue 18, leaning into an operating concept today, and I would say most of what you'll typically see from us is the latest and greatest, most modern stuff. We're always trying to find those edges or develop those edges on our own, and so I wanted to mix it up a little bit. And instead, this is going to be an homage to two very OG strategy frameworks that are enduring and simple, and those are two markers of something that's legit. So I wanted to dig in today. I'll go ahead and share my screen. The first we've got is the Ansoff Matrix, which has been around since 1957, which is craziness. So let me pull this up. But this is like a business school staple. And so strategy framework, right? And I guess the headline here is growth. So these are strategic methods for achieving business growth in really any context. And I guess it's a quadrant setup for anybody that's familiar with Gartner's 4 quadrants, man. So we're looking at a quadrant here for the listeners. And on one dimension or I guess on both is kind of risk level. So it moves left to right, low to high risk, and top to bottom, low to high risk, with the least risk being to go after existing markets with existing products. And the headline here is market penetration. So you're going to slang what you got to the markets that you know already exist. And then if we're continuing to think about existing markets, increasing risk would be to bring new products to existing markets. And I would say these are probably the most conventional growth methods. It's like, hey, we're going to continue to sell what we got to a market that we know exists. We're going to penetrate the market, or we're going to develop products. And in our world, it's typically features, modules, integrations that are going to bring kind of new things to the existing markets. So that's kind of one way to look at it. If we move down, now we're on kind of like the new markets vector, and we've got new markets for existing products. That's market development. So in our world, most of the time, that's like ICP expansion. So it's like, hey, we've been selling this thing to this customer profile. We've noticed that it's very applicable to this other customer profile. We're going to make some fine tunes, and we're going to expand the TAM as a function of adding ICPs to your addressable market. Then we've got on the new market vector, we've got a riskier play, which is to bring new markets and new products. And this is like, we're just going to do something new, like totally new. And so that's that. So that's Ansoff. And this was, I think, kind of like the gold standard for strategy, mostly around product development. For still to this day. I mean, you'll see this slide, and a lot of times they'll visualize it if you're looking at a product roadmap or kind of a growth strategy slide at an executive table or with an investing group. And it's like, this is what we got now, right? And these are our products. These are our existing markets. These are the new products that we want to bring to our existing markets. Here's the stuff that we're thinking about in terms of development for new markets. And that's, just kind of 1.0. This is a strategy. This is how we're going to communicate it. Cool on the Ansoff Matrix, because from here, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm cool on that matrix. I think it was relevant for the time that it was created in, but with the prevalence of now SaaS companies and digital innovation and the pace that it's moving in, we definitely need something that's a bit more modern for how to spank an M&A strategy.
Exactly. Or I guess the big thing is that the assumption for the Ansoff Matrix is, I guess it's kind of in like there's only organic growth vacuum.
Right. And we know that's not true.
Exactly. Or it's totally not true.
Far
right?
from.
There's a lot of different ways that you can create growth. So McKinsey did a turn on this, and this was their holy grail. I mean, this basically informed every strategic engagement. And they're obviously McKinsey, for those that aren't totally familiar, world-renowned management consulting firm. It's like them, BCG, et cetera. But this was their playbook and is today. And so on the achieving growth, we've got kind of two pillars here. The left side is basically a different spin on the Ansoff Matrix, which is interesting because it doesn't necessarily, or I guess it does, it scales up in terms of risk. So at the bottom, and it's structured like a pyramid. At the bottom, you've got existing products to existing customers. Above that, you've got existing products to new customers, and so on until the tippity top, which is just a new competitive arena all around. So that's new products, new markets, if we're thinking in terms of Ansoff. So that's pretty straightforward, but it answers one very critical question, right? How? Because as we just noted, there's ways to skin the cat here. And so at the very bottom, and again, this goes from least risky to most risky, we've got organic investments, which is basically the Ansoff model. Like, we're going to do this on our own. We're going to develop new products. We're going to penetrate new markets, et cetera. And then above that, you've got marketing partnerships. So now we're starting to think about aligning yourself with another organization. Above that is strategic alliances, kind of same thing said different ways. And then minority stakes. So this is very interesting, right? You can technically diversify into new products and diversify into new markets by taking a position in another business,
Yep.
which is a cool way to think. And then you have joint ventures, which is, I guess, kind of more in bed versus a minority stake, which is like, hey, we're going to buy 5% of your business because we want exposure to this market, but you carry on doing your thing. We have no kind of role in decisioning, any of that kind of stuff. Joint venture is much more of a partnership. So it's like, hey, we're going to really get in bed to do this. We're sharing decision making, we're sharing downside, upside, et cetera. And then above that, you have acquisitions. So, hey, we want to expand into this area of technology. We think it's complementary to the software that we're currently providing for this market. We're going to go buy a business. Boom, M&A, put simply. So, a lot more detail here, a lot more stuff to kind of introduce into our thinking. So I'll pause there. Initial thoughts, initial feedback. Do you dig? No? Too
I mean,
complex?
I think as it relates to scaling ventures, we're definitely kind of validated in this model that we're on the right path. Because when I first dove into this, we're starting at that level one right now, existing products to existing customers, focused on organic investments, like as the how, and then now we're leveling up to marketing partnerships. Behind that, with the new pricing strategy we're talking about, then it's new customers trying to expand that TAM. So I think this is a lot more in line and relevant to what we're doing today. And yeah, that's really all it is.
Totally. Well, I think what's interesting too is on achieving growth. I mean, one very important lever is pricing and monetization, which
Hmm.
I guess kind of falls in the existing products to existing customers. But on this one, and they do touch on new geographies, which would fall under the new customers bucket, new industry structures, et cetera. But pricing and monetization, don't sleep on that. That is definitely a lever that is mission critical, because it's like, hey, your job, first of all, is to create value and deliver
Hmm.
it to the customer in the most efficient manner possible. And that's why people love the SaaS business model, because your cost to serve is zero incrementally, right? So you build something once and you can distribute it infinitely over the internet at almost zero cost.
Yep.
But then how you capture that value as a business is related to pricing and monetization. So it's a conversation around value capture.
I have a thought and a potential challenge.
Yeah, let it
Food for
rip.
thought, right? So I'm looking at this model, and as we were talking through it, this does not feel linear. Like, what are your thoughts on, depending on the space you're in, you might be able to jump around. Like we talked about new geographies, you might be able to jump around and tap into a new geography first before, as part of your strategy to acquire new customers. Like, you expand your ICP and you realize, oh, this ICP is really just isolated in this geography. So you can technically scratch off number six and two at the same time in one move. Like, what do you feel about that? Does it feel linear? Does it feel like, depending on your space, you can move around?
Yeah, well, so I think focus creates the space for performance, right?
Yep.
And simplicity is mastery. So I think we want to keep kind of those principles in the back of our mind. But I would say it's less a conversation around, or what you probably don't want to do. Let's bounce back to Ansoff. What you
Yeah.
don't want to do is like, we're going to hit new markets with new products, and then we're going to bring new products to our existing markets, and we're going to do all that in the next 2 quarters. That's like, ugh, that sounds like you're kind of setting yourself up for failure here. So it's in terms of a linear approach, like you would probably think about how we sequence these methods,
Right.
right? So you come in post acquisition, it's like, cool. What we know is, or what we're confident in, what we've built conviction around during diligence is that there's product market fit. Cool. And we also can make some assumptions that the seller was probably more technical, more product oriented, not as commercially savvy, lacks kind of a
Yep.
go-to-market skill set. So there's probably a lot of juice to be had on on just acquiring new customers in the same markets that are proven. So that's probably step one. And that might be the only step, honestly. Or I think what's probably the most reasonable is we're going to sell this to more of the same people, and we're going
Yep.
to, we're going to get more channels involved. We're going to rethink pricing and monetization, et cetera. And then we're going to start to get a better understanding of, our ICP and the core segments that we are, kind of serve. And then from there, I think it's probably a trade-off around, is it going to be more time and resource intense to develop new products and sell them into the existing customers? Or do we want to expand ICP and sell the same product to new segments? And I would say it's probably
Correct.
quicker to sell the same product to new segments and go after a new ICP that's adjacent to yours. So
Agreed.
it's like,
Yep.
hey, we're selling a software to creatives. It's like, okay, like what is the creative? It's like, okay, we're going to go after, commercial photographers. Okay, well then what about after that? Well, it turns out a lot of them focus on event-based businesses like weddings and corporate events, et cetera. Cool. Turns out that like DJs go to those things. Turns out that photo booth operators go to those things. And so a lot of the functionality is transferable. It's just kind of old wine, new bottles, right? So we need to fine tune our messaging, and we need to put this next assembly, the ICP, on the assembly line, and away we go. So to answer your question, yeah, I think you probably definitely don't want to be on every corner of the map, right? You probably want to
100%.
pick your spot, hit it as hard as you can, and then pick your head up and move from there.
Hmm.
What I think is also interesting in our context is, or what's conventional with buyout funds, especially as you move up the pyramid. So like a lot of lower middle market SaaS buyout funds, they come in and it's like, cool, we know that there's like an ecosystem of SaaS businesses that exist at 5 million ARR. Our
Yep.
job is to grow them to 10 million ARR because there's another kind of pond at 10 million with
That's another
financial
ceiling. Yep.
sponsors. And so it's like, cool, our job is to take a 5 million thing, make it a 10 million dollar thing, and sell it to a bigger fish. The group that takes it from 10 beyond, almost always their playbooks involve international expansion, which is very hard, as we know, and then M&A. So it's like, cool, we're going to buy this thing and we're going to acquire this thing and this thing, and we're going to roll it up. And now we have complementary businesses under one roof, and we've taken
Larger market share.
we've taken a 10 million. Now it's 50, 100, 150 million, and that's where you get
Yep.
big hits. And some very wise words that were once shared with me is that what rises consolidates. So essentially,
Mm.
like, right, markets consolidate over time. So if you're the top outperformers, eventually they're like, hey, we need, the only way to grow is via inorganic growth, is via acquisition.
Yeah.
So eventually the top players typically consolidate. So that's something that you can expect. What I think is a very interesting lever for us and for Micro SaaS is to be very thoughtful about an M&A strategy. And this is a roll-up strategy, right? Tuck-ins, roll-ups, and it's like, hey, we're going to make an acquisition. This is going to be the platform company. We know that this thing, what's a good metaphor? like we're going to go buy a kitchen, and then we know that there are at least 2 or 3 other bathrooms that are out there, and we're going to buy one of those bathrooms, and we're going to be closer to a whole house. That was a reach, but it's like, and in our world, right, it means like synergy, which is, a very vague term. So we want to make sure that we define it. Usually as a function of customers or a feature functionality or technology. So it's like, we're going to, instead of integrating backwards or forwards, we're going to go acquire a technology that provides something adjacent to what we do, that's in the same workflow or that's relevant for the same ICP.
Yep. Complimentary. Yep.
And we're going to roll that way. Because you don't really read a lot about micro SaaS fund operators going hard at M&A or having a roll-up strategy core to the thesis when they make an acquisition and treating an acquisition like a platform that they plan to bolt onto. So I want us thinking about this a lot, because that's how you can create huge jumps in revenue, grow user bases pretty quickly, et cetera. I'll pause there, though.
Yeah. No. What you were saying made me think of vertical integration across the supply chain, and that's how you just swallow up the entire thing. And I mean,
Exactly.
Salesforce has been doing that for years. Look
Totally.
at between Sales Cloud, that was an acquisition of like I forgot what it was called. It was like Lead IQ or Sales IQ, something like that. And
Yeah,
then Pardot, that was top of the funnel email marketing automation tool, right? It's just
totally.
they literally just took the entire supply chain. Now they're looking at customer success tools. They've gotten into like the Einstein activity insights. They've literally taken every piece that is complementary to a CRM. Now they've become the entire ecosystem with over 200 acquisitions. And it all
Yeah.
started with organic investments, just giving this product out for free to SDRs. And then it rolled up to marketing partnerships. So other people that'll like them, just seeing how we can get the word out. Then strategic alliances with these complementary businesses, taking a minority stake and investing in them. They literally ran that wrong. So I loved how you reverted back to the Ansoff model to validate why you need to sequence activities a certain way with the McKinsey model. It totally made sense.
Well, and I think one way to hedge risk is to kind of date to marry, right? So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
let's start at the bottom. Hey, okay, we're gonna do a marketing partnership now. There's a strategic alliance. Okay, we're gonna actually do a joint venture, and oh, actually, we want to acquire you now. And so you
We want
just
to swipe right
slowly,
on you.
like, just slowly work your way up, and all the while you're kind
Yeah.
of mitigating risk because you're taking kind of incremental baby steps, and that's probably
Yep.
how you want to approach anything. Yes, and on the value chain conversation too, right? Because I think there's a lot of ways to think about it where it's like, all right, who's our ICP? Cool. Like, what other technology exists in their daily workflow? Great. And that's as simple as that. It's like, all right, let's build that stuff so that they don't have to leave our tool to go use the other thing, or let's
Yeah.
go acquire it, et cetera. And so you kind of just let your users determine, like, what is your tech stack? Great. Now we have our acquisition roadmap.
I was just gonna touch on that. Like, what are your technographics? When you look at, and this is
Yeah.
again, no advertising, but when you look at tools like Datanyze, or some of those out there where they show you the technographics or builtwith.com, right? If you can see their tech stack and you can kind of like deduce what tool were they in before they hopped in mine, and then after mine, where did they go next? What is the value they get from those two solutions before and after, and how can I just grab those pieces of the supply chain? Yeah, no, it's totally brilliant.
Yeah. To just keep your users in your product longer.
Exactly.
Full,
Exactly.
right? And then you have to assume that value creation is occurring, and then you can monetize it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my man, I think this one will probably be short and sweet. I don't think I had any closing thoughts here, but I think these are good frameworks. I think probably in terms of like an actionable next step for the audience is I would start with the Ansoff Matrix and just be clear on how you're growing today.
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to do? Full stop. What is the growth lever that you're pulling? Cool. And then maybe think about where you want to go after that. Because, and the decision point is probably, can we sell this thing to new markets, or should we develop new stuff to sell into the existing market? Like, it's kind of a binary decision. It's like either we're going to add ICPs and sell what we got, or we're going to develop stuff. And that becomes a function of like, all right, can we develop product faster? Then we can penetrate new markets. Which one can we execute on quicker? And then that informs that next kind of sequence of growth.
Yeah. I would say to add to that, be very diligent in how you sequence your activities after getting through that thought process, that thought experiment.
Yeah, or I think probably the cause for alarm is it's like, hey, listen to this thing. Let's look at the Ansoff Matrix and just figure out what we're doing. And it's like, oh shit, we're all over the map. It's like, ooh, like probably rein it in. Like focus,
Yep.
focus, 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 focus leads to results.
And
Cool.
it's so hard to get everyone to agree to that. It's like, well, we got this thing going on and this thing, and then bing, 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 and you're like, no, 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 no. We have a lot of things going on, but we have to understand when we're being busy versus being productive. Let's rein it in. And it's so hard, especially when you have so many alphas and executives in a room. It's so hard.
Totally. Well, it's like, hey, the best way to pull a lever is to get every human standing on the same lever.
Exactly. Literally.
Full
It takes
stop.
a village.
Everybody pull as hard as you can. We're pulling on this. Word. We'll leave it at that. Thanks always for tuning in. Much love. For the love of the game, we'll run it back next week. See you then. Cheers.
Cheers.